Polls.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are really strapping ourselves in. We're heading deep into the psychology of a very specific kind of deal-making.
That's right, niche real estate acquisitions. And not just any niche, we're talking mobile home parks, MHPs.
Specifically, we're dissecting the playbook, the sort of behavioral blueprint used to persuade arguably the toughest seller out there, the longtime MHP owner.
Yes, the classic mom and pop. Someone who's owned this park, maybe fixed every leaky faucet themselves since, well, let's just say since Reagan was in office.
Exactly. They've held this asset for decades, poured their life into it, and now they're ready to sell. Their first instinct, usually it's show me the cash, all of it, now.
Right. A big, clean check. Seems simplest, seems safest.
And that's where our deep dive really begins today, because convincing that owner, someone with decades of, literal sweat equity tied up in this place, that seller carry financing is actually the better move. Well, that's not about math.
Not initially, anyway. It's about psychology. It's about understanding their fears, their pride, their sense of legacy.
We need to dismantle that ingrained cash is king mindset. It's powerful.
It really is. And the source material we're digging into today is fascinating because it leans so heavily into behavioral science, not just spreadsheets. We're pulling from that detailed, almost satirical analysis known as MHP Seller Confidential, the Barnaby and Judy format they use.
Right, that framework. It's sharp because it acknowledges the human element. We're going to unpack their core strategies using psychology, not trickery, mind you, to address all those tangled emotions, fear, pride, anxiety about the future of their community.
Yeah, it's not about slick sales tactics. It's about genuinely understanding the seller's mindset and framing the offer in a way that speaks to their deepest concerns and motivations. Selling peace of mind, like you said earlier.
So the mission today, analyze the exact psychological triggers, the specific techniques detailed in that playbook, used to turn a skeptical seller into essentially a confident private banker.
Converting them from wanting a lump sum to wanting a steady, secure income stream backed by the asset they know best.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Excellent. So where do we start? Foundationally, it's fear. Fear blocks logic every time.
Especially when you're talking about someone's entire nest egg, potentially their retirement security.
Absolutely. They're thinking about risk, about being taken advantage of, about the buyer maybe defaulting down the line. If that fear is high, they physically cannot process arguments about interest rates or tax benefits. It just doesn't land.
So step one is calming them down. Emotional disarmament, you called it.
Precisely. And the number one tool highlighted in the playbook for this, it's tapping into loss aversion.
Ah, okay. Behavioral Finance 101. The idea that losing, say, $100 hurts way more than gaining $100 feels good.
Exactly. It's a fundamental human bias. We're wired to avoid losses. And the genius here is how the strategy uses that bias.
So you don't pitch seller carry as just a potential gain. You'll make more interest.
Well, you do eventually, but you don't lead with that because chasing a future gain feels inherently risky to someone in a fearful state. Instead, you flip the script.
You frame the all-cash offer as the real loss.
Bingo. You make the immediate, seemingly safe option feel like a guaranteed painful loss. You talk about taxes.
The capital gains hit. Uncle Sam's cut.
Right. You make it concrete. Okay, you sell for $2 million cash. That's fantastic. But realize that depending on your basis, you might immediately lose, 30%, maybe even 40% of that straight off the top to taxes. That could be $600,000, $800,000. Gone. Instantly.
Oof. Yeah, putting a number like that on it makes it visceral. That's not an abstract risk. That's a definite, quantifiable chunk disappearing.
It creates immediate pain, and then you pivot. Why take that guaranteed massive hit right now? Seller carry lets you keep that capital working for you, tax-deferred, generating a steady income.
So the thing that seemed risky becoming the bank is reframed as the way to avoid the guaranteed loss of the tax bill. It protects their principal.
Suddenly, seller carry looks like the safer harbor for their capital. It's a really clever reframing of risk.
Okay, that's powerful. But it's not just about fear of loss, right? The playbook talks about identity, too.
Hugely important. Identity alignment. You have to connect the seller carry concept to how the owner sees themselves or how they want to see themselves in retirement.
So you tailor the pitch to their personality.
Absolutely. If they're the savvy operator type, the one who prides themselves on building this business, you frame it as a promotion.
A promotion. How so?
You've mastered the landlord game for decades. You built this now. You graduate. You move up from the hands-on grind of being a landlord to the more sophisticated, passive role of being a banker. You're leveraging your expertise, just in a different way.
Ah, I see. It validates their past success and offers a higher status future. Less work, more strategy.
Exactly. It appeals to their intelligence, their business acumen. It says, this is the smart money move for someone like you.
Okay, but what about the owner who's maybe less focused on the business side and more on the community they've built? The mom side of the mom and pop.
Great question. For them, you align seller carry with their sense of stewardship, their legacy.
How does that work?
The argument becomes, look, taking the highest cash offer might mean selling to some big corporation that doesn't know your tenants, doesn't care about the community like you do. Financing the sale lets you have a say. You get to choose the buyer, someone who respects what you've built, someone who will be a good caretaker.
So it gives them control over the transition. It's not just selling land. It's ensuring the continuity of their values.
Precisely. It taps into that powerful desire to protect what they've created, to ensure their legacy is respected. It turns letting go into curating the future.
That also feeds into another concept mentioned, sunk cost protection, right?
Right.
Honoring their past effort.
Yes, absolutely. Decades of sweat equity. You can't just ignore that. Taking cash can feel like all that effort just vanishes, gets converted into a number that then gets taxed heavily.
It feels like an ending.
Right. But seller carry, framed correctly, honors that investment. You say, your life's work doesn't just stop paying you back. With seller carry, it continues to pay dividends month after month, year after year, but without you having to do the heavy lifting anymore.
So the park they built keeps generating income for them. It validates their entire career.
It provides continuity. They're not abandoning their creation. They're setting it up to fund their retirement. It feels much more whole.
But all this psychology, all this reframing, it has to be simple, right? The playbook emphasizes cognitive ease.
Critically important. If the concept feels complicated or confusing, anxiety shoots right back up and the logical brain shuts down again. You kill the deal.
No complex amortization schedules up front then.
Definitely not. Keep it simple. The source material nails this with analogies. The classic one. It's like getting a pension from your park. You just get monthly checks and there are 0 toilets involved.
Like that. Instantly understandable. Passive income, freedom from the landlord hassles. That's the dream they're chasing.
Exactly. It paints a clear, appealing picture. Clarity builds comfort, and comfort builds trust. Without that trust, you go nowhere.
Okay, so we've calmed the initial fear. We've started aligning with their identity. Now we shift focus more towards pride, control, legacy.
Yeah, once the fear is managed, you can really lean into those motivators. For someone who's run the show for 30, 40 years, giving up control is terrifying. Seller carry can actually be framed as retaining a degree of control.
This is the legacy framing you mentioned, turning letting go into curating the handoff.
Precisely. They're not just passively accepting a buyer. They are actively selecting their successor and the terms of the deal. They feel empowered in the process, not just like a transaction is happening to them.
It shifts the power dynamic, or at least the perception of it.
It absolutely does. It makes them the author of the park's next chapter, which is a powerful psychological boost. It transforms that fear of the unknown into pride.
But pride and control are still a bit abstract. How do you make that real? How do you prove this isn't some risky, unusual strategy?
Excellent point. This is where social proof becomes absolutely critical, and specifically local social proof. The liking principle is in play here too. We trust people who are like us.
Meaning, talking about a deal in California doesn't help much if you're negotiating in, say, rural Alabama.
Not at all. It's irrelevant. You need a mirror. The playbook is very clear. You must try to find an example of another local, respected park owner, maybe someone they know, or at least know of, who has successfully used seller carry.
And you can't just drop a name, can you? You need the story.
You need the anecdote. You need to paint the picture. It's not just, oh, Joe down the road did this. No.
So more like,
you know Joe Swanson, right? Ran Sunny Skies Park for, 40-plus years? Solid operator. Well, he sold last year, did a 5-year carry with the buyer, saw him at the diner last month, says he gets that check like clockwork on the 3rd of every month. He finally took that long RV trip to see his grandkids, said it was the first time he wasn't worried about calls from the park. He loves it. Said he feels retired from work, but not retired from income.
Okay, yeah. That level of detail makes it credible. It's relatable. Is someone like them succeeding with this exact strategy? It counters the this seems weird feeling.
It totally dismantles skepticism because it's not you, the buyer, telling them it works. It's their peer
Right.
implicitly validating it.
But what if you genuinely can't find a perfect Neighbor Joe example in that specific small town or rural area? Does the strategy just fall apart?
That's a really practical question. It happens all the time. The playbook suggests widening the circle, slightly leveraging regional proof.
So maybe not the next town over, but someone in a similar type of market within the state.
Exactly. You find a success story from a respected, long-time operator in, say, the county seat or just outside the nearest metro area. You frame it slightly differently. This is becoming the standard exit strategy for many of the really seasoned park owners in this part of the state. The folks who've been doing this for decades, they see the benefits.
So it still uses the liking principle, people like you, but defines the group a bit more broadly, an informed regional tribe.
Right. It maintains that sense of this is what smart, experienced people in our world do, even without the direct personal connection. It still appeals to that insider knowledge idea.
Okay, that makes sense. It's flexible.
Okay.
Now, moving on from social proof, the communication itself. Segment 3 in the outline talks about storytelling.
Yes. Moving beyond just logic and bullet points. Story-based framing. This is crucial because, as the source material puts it so well,
Numbers lecture. Stories whisper trust. I like that.
it's true, isn't it? A lecture puts defenses up. A story slides past skepticism. It allows the seller to visualize themselves successfully using seller carry.
So you weave a narrative about their future life if they choose this path.
Exactly. You paint that picture, the reliable monthly income, the freedom from management hassles, the peace of mind knowing they chose a good steward for their tenants, the Jane and Joe example in the outline, receiving the check, feeling secure, knowing the community is cared for. That's the mental image you want to create and reinforce.
And you tie this into tribal alignment again.
Definitely. You position seller carry not just as an option, but as the preferred choice, the savvy choice of their peer group. This is how many longtime park owners are choosing to exit smartly these days.
You're making it feel like the standard, the insider track for experienced operators. If they don't do it, they're missing out on what the smart folks know.
Precisely. It creates a subtle pressure to join the club, leveraging their desire to be seen as knowledgeable and experienced within their industry.
And this reinforces the pride appeals we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. It's the ego stroke. It validates their whole career. You say things like, look, you didn't just own some dirt, you built a real community here. Seller carry lets you sort of stay the captain of that ship, guiding its next voyage, ensuring that legacy continues while collecting passive income.
It makes him feel important, respected, not just cashed out.
Right. And the way you deliver all this matters immensely. The tone, the source material, that MHP Seller Confidential format uses humor and a conversational style effectively.
Gently satirical, maybe. Poking fun at the industry, not the seller.
Exactly that. You build rapport by acknowledging their world. Maybe a little self-deprecation, acknowledging the cliches.
It's like mentioning the endless calls from clueless buyers.
Yeah. I bet you're tired of getting the 10th, "Hi, I'm Chad. Got a lowball offer for ya? Call this week." Something like that. It shows you get their frustration. You're validating their experience.
Humor disarms. Respect builds trust. You're positioning yourself as different from the typical buyer, someone who understands their world.
Precisely. You're not just another transaction. You're a potential partner offering an intelligent solution.
Okay, so we've navigated fear, pride, legacy, storytelling. But eventually, we do have to address the core financial objection head on. It feels risky.
We do, and this is where the strategy really needs to pivot from emotional validation to concrete, logical reframing of risk backed by clear safeguards. You can't just gloss over the risk. You have to meet it, validate it, and then dismantle it logically.
You can't dismiss it, you have to redefine it.
Exactly. And the primary tool for that is emphasizing the safeguards, particularly the fact that the seller holds the lien. They are the bank.
Right, they have the collateral. But we need to explain why that's such strong protection.
We need to detail the mechanism clearly. Okay, let's imagine the worst case scenario you're worried about. The buyer defaults. What happens? Well, first, you keep the significant down payment, maybe 10, 15, 20%. Second, you keep every single monthly payment you'd received up to that point. Third, you get the park back.
And the key point the sources make, the park often comes back improved.
Crucially, because the buyer, trying to make the deal work, has likely invested their own capital in fixing things up, maybe filling vacancies, improving infrastructure. They've put money into your asset.
So the default scenario, which feels like the biggest risk, is reframed as backup ROI.
That's the term they use. It's not just downside protection. It's potentially a profitable outcome, believe it or not. The buyer's failure can actually subsidize the seller's gain once you factor in the down payment, the collected payments, and the improved asset value.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate here, the seller might push back. What about foreclosure costs, legal fees? That eats into the backup ROI. That's a real fear.
Absolutely valid concern. And the answer needs to address the efficiency of seller financing foreclosure compared to traditional bank foreclosures. Because the seller holds the note directly, the process is often faster and less expensive. You emphasize that the down payment and the accumulated monthly payments are specifically structured to more than cover those potential costs, ensuring the seller still comes out ahead financially, especially considering the tax deferral benefits they enjoyed along the way.
That makes sense. But still, abstract reassurances might not be enough. The fear is emotional. How do you make the safety feel real?
With concrete numbers, abstract percentages don't kill anxiety, tangible dollar amounts do.
So instead of just 5% interest, you calculate the actual monthly payment.
Exactly. Let's look at your park. Say it sells for $1 million and you carry back $500,000 at 5%. That's not just 5%. That is $2,700 deposited into your bank account every single month. Think about what that covers. Maybe your property taxes on your new place, your healthcare premiums, that trip you wanted to take.
You make it real, relatable to their actual expenses and desires in retirement. Clarity breeds certainty.
It stops being theoretical finance and starts being reliable income they can mentally spend.
Okay, and then there's challenging the status quo bias, making the safe option cash seem like the risky one.
Right. The argument goes, taking all that cash sounds simple, but what does it really mean? It means you suddenly have a huge pile of money, maybe $1 million, that you now have to manage in today's market. You've got inflation eating away at it, you've got that immediate huge tax bill, and then you have the stress and headache of figuring out where to reinvest it safely to generate income.
You're essentially framing the all-cash deal as creating a new, unwanted job for them in retirement. Wealth manager.
Exactly. They just got out of the park management business and now they're thrust into the complex world of investment management, something they likely have a little experience or desire for. Seller carry avoids that entirely.
And you layer on safety nets to address the fear of being locked in. Flexibility is key.
Crucial for retirees. They need to know they aren't trapped, so you emphasize the liquidity options for the note itself.
Remind them that the note isn't just an IOU, it's a financial instrument.
Yes. This note you hold, it's an asset. If you ever had a major unexpected need for cash, a medical emergency, wanting to help a grandchild, these notes can be sold on the secondary market to investors. You might take a small discount, but you can access liquidity.
So there's an established path to cash if needed. They aren't stuck for the full term if life happens.
Right. And you can also structure the deal itself for flexibility. If they're nervous about being a banker for 15 or 20 years.
You offer a shorter term, like a 5-year balloon.
Exactly. Let's structure this with the 5-year balloon payment. You get 5 years of great, reliable income tax deferred. Then, at the end of year 5, the remaining principal balance is paid off in one lump sum. Your role as the bank has a defined end date. That provides immense comfort.
And the final piece of normalization, making it feel normal,
is to compare it to standard institutional practice. Look, banks do this every single day. They lend money secured by assets. All you're doing is stepping into the bank's role, using your intimate knowledge of this specific asset knowledge no bank could ever have to secure a safe return for yourself. You're just being the bank.
Familiarity breeds comfort. It's not some weird fringe strategy. It's adapting a proven financial model.
Precisely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let's really zero in now on the big 3 objections, the ones that come up almost every single time in these MHP negotiations. The playbook focuses on a specific technique. Validate, then reframe.
Right. You have to acknowledge the emotion before you apply the logic.
Yeah.
Okay, objection number 1.
The big one. What if the buyer defaults? It's always the first, most deeply felt fear. If you rush past this, you've lost them.
So first, validate.
Empathize immediately. That's a completely fair question. It's probably the most important one to address. Honestly, if you weren't thinking about that, I'd be worried. You take their concern seriously.
And then the reframe, hitting those safeguard points again.
Then the reframe, calmly and clearly. Okay, let's walk through that worst case. If, say, in year 2 or 3, the buyer couldn't make payments, here's what happens. 1, you keep the initial down payment. Let's say it was 15%, that's yours. 2, you keep every single monthly payment received up to that day. 3, You get the park back. And remember, it's likely an improved asset by then because the buyer has put money into it. So, while it's not ideal, the structure ensures you are financially protected and likely even come out ahead. You reinforce the backup ROI.
Okay, makes sense. Objection number 2.
What if I need a lump sum of cash later? The liquidity fear. They worry their money is tied up and inaccessible for emergencies or big purchases.
Validation first. That's a very practical concern, especially in retirement. You absolutely need to know you have access to funds if needed.
Perfect. Then the reframe focuses on flexibility and the nature of the note. You're never trapped. The note you hold isn't just a piece of paper, it's a recognized financial asset. If you needed, say, $50,000 for a new roof or a medical bill, you can sell a portion of the note on the secondary market or potentially borrow against it. You have options for liquidity without disrupting the entire income stream.
You're stressing it's a negotiable asset, not just locked away equity.
Exactly. It has market value. And finally, objection number 3. The one that sounds so simple.
Why not just take the cash and be done with it? The appeal of the clean break.
This one requires differentiating between what they want to be done with. Validate the desire. I completely understand wanting simplicity and wanting to be finished with the landlord responsibilities. That makes perfect sense.
Then differentiate the two types of done.
Right. Seller carry lets you be instantly done with the headaches, the tenants, the toilets, the repairs. That's the freedom you're looking for. But an all-cash deal means you're also done with the income stream from the park, and you're immediately starting a new headache. A massive tax bill, and the job of managing a large sum of cash.
So seller carry is positioned as being done with the work, but not done with the income or the tax advantages. Cash means being done with income and starting tax and reinvestment problems.
You got it. It reframes done in a much more nuanced and appealing way for the seller.
Okay, we've addressed the core objections.
Yeah.
The seller is moving from fear to understanding, maybe even curiosity. What are the final nudges? How do you get them from considering to signing?
This is where the playbook brings in some higher-level psychological tools, used gently, to prompt action. We start with what could be called ethical FOMO, fear of missing out, but framed around making a wise financial decision.
So less about missing a party, more about missing a smart opportunity.
Exactly. You subtly highlight the potential regret of not choosing seller carry. You know, we've talked to sellers who took cash years ago, and frankly, some of them really kick themselves now when they calculate the tens, even hundreds of thousands they missed out on in steady interest income, plus the huge tax bite they took unnecessarily. They prioritized the quick buck over the smarter long-term play.
You're making inaction seem like the potentially regretful choice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then there's cognitive dissonance. How does that work here?
This directly challenges their self-perception, the identity we helped align earlier. You appeal to their established image as a savvy, successful operator.
So you might say something like,
You've spent decades building this park, making smart decisions, being a careful steward of your assets in this community. Now you have an option on the table that offers higher returns, significant tax advantages, and more control over the transition. Doesn't ignoring that kind of contradict the shrewd business sense you've demonstrated all these years?
wow, that's direct. You're creating an internal conflict. If I'm smart, why would I ignore the smarter option?
Precisely. To resolve that dissonance and maintain their self-image as a savvy individual, they feel an internal pressure to seriously consider and ideally accept the seller carry offer. Rejecting it creates a nagging inconsistency in their mind.
Clever. And then there's genuine urgency, but tied to market conditions, not just buyer pressure.
Very important distinction. It can't feel like a fake deadline. You tie it to objective reality. Look, interest rates are relatively high right now. This allows you to lock in a really attractive return, maybe 5%, 6% on your own capital, secured by your own asset. If rates drop next year, which many economists predict, this specific window to get such a good, safe return might close. It's about capitalizing on the current market.
So acting now isn't about helping the buyer. It's about the seller securing a favorable rate before conditions change. It puts them in the driver's seat of market timing.
Exactly. And the final framing tool mentioned in the source, exclusivity.
Making it feel special, selective.
Yeah. You know, seller carry isn't something we offer to just any seller or on any property. It really only makes sense for experienced owners like you who understand the asset and appreciate the benefits of structuring a smarter, more tax-efficient exit. It's for those who want the best of both worlds, freedom from work, but continued control and optimized income.
It's like a velvet rope. It appeals to their pride, makes them feel chosen for a superior strategy.
It reinforces that they're part of that savvy insider group we talked about.
Okay, so pulling this all together,
Yeah.
from loss aversion right through to exclusivity. What's the ultimate takeaway? What is persuasion in this specific high-stakes context?
At its core, it's fundamentally about reassurance. It's about systematically identifying and dismantling fear, replacing it with comfort and confidence. And it's about reframing, taking concepts like risk, control, and legacy, and presenting them in a new light that aligns with the seller's deepest needs and self-perception.
It's not about tricking them. It's about rewarding their wisdom, validating their life's work, and converting that natural resistance into curiosity, and finally into acceptance of a structure that genuinely benefits them.
You have to make them feel smart for choosing it, safe within it, and still fundamentally in control of their destiny.
Fear down, trust up, control stays with you. Those seem like the pillars.
Absolutely. If those three messages land, the seller carry deal has a strong chance. And, as the satirical MHP Seller Confidential playbook might conclude.
Let me guess. Cash is king.
But sometimes the king retires too early, pays a fortune in taxes, misses out on years of steady income, and ends up stressed about managing the treasure chest. Seller carry lets the king retire smart.
A perfect summary. Which brings us to that final thought for you, our listeners. We've just spent this deep dive unpacking how effectively these behavioral principles, loss aversion, identity alignment, reframing risk, are used in this very specific high-emotion real estate niche.
So the question to ponder is, where else in your own life, maybe your career, your business, or even your personal investments, might you be misframing risk versus reward?
Are you automatically reaching for the all-cash equivalent? The seemingly safe, simple status quo option without fully considering the potential hidden costs or the opportunities you're leaving on the table?
Think about it. Where might you be giving up potential income, tax advantages, or even control simply because a smarter path feels initially uncomfortable or unfamiliar? Are you letting fear block logic in other areas?
Something to chew on. Where are you letting the king retire too early? We'll leave you with that thought until the next deep dive.